What is up, everyone? Huge new character updates just leaked for the upcoming 3.4 banner characters because we officially have brand new beta adjustments for Lucy, Rebecca, and Lucilla. And honestly, a lot of these unexpected tweaks are actually pretty massive. While certain abilities got majorly buffed, other skills got nerfed, and Lucy in particular received a massive amount of kit changes compared to the other two characters. So with that being said, in today's video, we are going to go over and fully break down every single critical detail that got changed and revealed for these characters so far, and talk about whether these adjustments are wins or losses overall. These balance shifts could completely change just how powerful these characters may end up being when they finally launch. But before we jump in, if you want to stay completely up to date on all the latest Wuthering Waves news, future banners, and upcoming character adjustments, definitely hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and if you really want to back the channel, dropping a quick comment helps out a ton. Seriously, let me know down in the comments section which specific 3.4 banner character you are planning to pull for during this patch. But alright. With that out of the way, let's dive right into it, without wasting any time because Lucy got absolutely flooded with modifications. I'm going to cover her kit first. Starting off with Lucy, right off the bat, they adjusted her Forte circuit mechanics. Regarding how she builds her resource, she utilizes a system called RAM, where abilities cost RAM up to a maximum cap of 24 RAM overall, giving us a much clearer look at how her resource management system actually functions. Now, one of the most significant adjustments is tied directly to her heavy attack multi-threading. They tweaked her multipliers here, and the base numbers actually got nerfed. However, they introduced a brand new mechanic to the ability. The damage multiplier bonus based on RAM consumption was massively buffed from 100% to 240%. This means that, overall, this is actually a substantial buff to the attack, despite those lower base multipliers. So, a pretty massive shift there. Aside from that, most of Lucy's standard scaling across her basic attacks, heavy attacks, and resonant skill were slightly scaled back across the board. In return, though, she gains a 25% extra spectral damage bonus, which balances out to a net positive because of that extra damage percentage. Kuro is basically redistributing her power budget rather than straight up hitting her overall damage output entirely. Moving on, we have a fantastic quality of life buff tied to her resonance liberation, as her ultimate can now be executed close to the ground while mid-air. Honestly, this is one of those subtle changes that makes the overall gameplay feel incredibly fluid during combat. We also see major scaling tweaks to the ultimate itself. For her liberation, the initial damage multiplier received a massive buff, jumping from 715% up to 844.95%. The secondary hit also got a nice bump, adding roughly another 200% plus to the multiplier. So, a very solid damage injection for her burst. Another huge gameplay enhancement comes to her intro skill. If you hold down her normal attack right after swapping in, she can now skip straight into the second stage of her basic attack, or the second phase of her heavy attack, which should drastically optimize her combo flow and rotation speed overall. On top of that, we have minor adjustments to Lucy's signature weapon. Its spectral damage bonus went from 15% to 20%, and the heavy attack damage amplification jumped from 25% to 30%. Overall, this is an excellent buff for her tailored weapon. Digging into more specific kit optimizations, let's look at her dodge counter. Pressing the basic attack button briefly will now transition her smoothly into later attack stages, rather than forcing her to restart earlier animations from scratch. Her resonance skill, Digital Handshake, now passively generates her energy gauge every second for a 10-second duration while outside of her compaction state, which provides a much cleaner resource generation loop. Meanwhile, her deadlock damage multiplier was slightly toned down, and the cooldown was marginally increased. Now, for one of the more controversial adjustments, her synergy with Rebecca. Lucy's outro buff, which provides damage amplification specifically for Rebecca, was cut in half from 40% down to 20%. So yes, this specific interaction is a nerf to the immediate burst potential she offers. To compensate for this, they gave the buff a bit more longevity, increasing the outrow duration from 20 to 25 seconds. They essentially traded raw amplification for a longer field presence overall. Alright, next up, let's look into the resonance chains for Lucy because her duplicates received some massive overhauls. Her Resonance Chain 2, the heavy attack multi-threading damage multiplier increase, shot up from 200% to 350%. Honestly, that is a massive buff for anyone planning to pull for copies, especially stopping at 2 dupes of the character. Plus, we might even be getting a dedicated pulling milestone event where you can claim 2 additional copies for free just by hitting certain thresholds, making this incredibly high value. Then we look at her third one. Originally, this node provided a flat 20% crit rate and 50% crit damage just for those base stats. Now it offers 0% crit rate, but a massive 100% crit damage instead. Overall, Lucy is shaping up to look incredibly powerful after these beta updates, and arguably even stronger in certain scenarios than before. As a collaboration unit, if this ends up being her final release kit, she is going to be in an amazing spot. Now let's shift our focus over to Rebecca. While Rebecca didn't receive quite as many adjustments overall, the tweaks she did get are actually phenomenal for her kit. Starting with her Fort Circuit, Rebecca can now store up to 120 points of Hot Hand, the resource needed to maximize her forte, which is a noticeable increase from her previous cap. Additionally, her passive regeneration speed was buffed from 5 points per second to 7.5 points per second, meaning she'll top off her meter significantly faster. Her resource building and general gameplay loop should feel way more responsive. Another massive adjustment is tied to her Resonance Liberation. Her ultimate is now officially classified as basic attack damage. This is a massive deal because it means she can now seamlessly benefit from basic attack buffs, specialized echo sets, and team synergies that scale basic attack damage, which wasn't possible in the earlier beta build. Basically, Rebecca's primary scaling metric is going to revolve around basic attack damage, so definitely keep that in mind when farming her gear. Don't forget that brand new echo sets tailored for these collab characters are dropping in version 3.4 as well. Finally, for Rebecca, her outro skills stack generation got completely reworked. Before, you gained stacks every single time the machine gun fired. Now, stacks automatically generate every 2 seconds whenever the machine gun is active. This looks like a straight-up buff to her active rotations because it makes her stack generation way more consistent and reliable. Lastly, we have Lucilla. She definitely received the fewest changes out of the trio, but there are still some highly impactful adjustments here, primarily to her resonance mode and her resonance chains. Let's break it down. We have updates to her R2. For this duplicate, her resonance mode, Glacio Chafe, previously made nearby enemies take 120% amplified Glacio damage. With these latest beta adjustments, R2 is even more potent, forcing targets to take an additional 80% Glacio Chafe damage instead. On the flip side, her Resonance Mode's Echo skill damage bonus for incoming characters was nerfed from 80% down to 40%. This is definitely a noticeable hit, particularly for Echo-focused setups. However, to balance things out, this effect now applies universally to all resonators on your team, rather than just the single character you swap directly into. Plus, it features a massive 30-second timer, ensuring incredibly high uptime throughout your fights. Looking at the big picture after reviewing all these adjustments, Lucy definitely walked away with the most substantial rework out of the 3 upcoming units. Sure, a few aspects of her kit were dialed back, like her raw base multipliers, her specific amplification synergy with Rebecca, and a couple of cooldowns. But at the same time, she gained a massive amount of extra damage scaling and critical quality of life tweaks to make her rotations feel incredibly smooth. She looks absolutely phenomenal overall. Let me know down in the comments below which of these 3 characters you are most hyped for right now after seeing these updates. Is it Lucy, Rebecca, or Lucilla? A lot of it will come down to the specific teams you want to build. If you're building the ultimate collab team, you'll likely want to pair Lucy and Rebecca together. Alternatively, if you're pulling Lucilla to support Hiyuki, she's locked in to be her absolute best-in-slot sub-DPS option. But yeah, that wraps up all the major nerfs and buffs from this week's beta update. If you found this video helpful and want to stay ahead of the curve on all things Wuthering Waves, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the very next one.